Good evening. Welcome to the Facility Usage and Planning Subcommittee of the Brockton School Committee. Today is Tuesday, May 27th. Time is 7 p.m. We are located at the George Romm Little Theater at Brockton High School, 470 Forest Ave, in the wonderful city of Brockton. In conjunction, this meeting will be held and will be accessible to the public via Comcast Channel 8 and 1071 HD version, and online via this link, www.youtube.com, TheBrocktonChannel. So I will call this meeting to order by establishing a quorum. Mrs. Sullivan? Here. Mr. Gomes?
Here.
Mr. Vega?
Here.
Ms. Oliver?
Here.
Ms. Azak?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
And myself, the chairman of the Facility Subcommittee, is present. We also have Facilities Director Ken Thompson and Jamie Domestico, his assistant, here as well. First item on the agenda, all the members received a packet last week, is discussion of the city charter, school properties and parks. It's an overview and implications of the facilities management. I added this to the agenda because for the past 3 years, after researching, some of the facilities, as we're trying to address our ballparks and fields for our students and also for the community as well, it was brought to my attention that some of our parks and our ball fields are being currently maintained by the Parks Department without the school committee's approval. I did extensive research, and I can't find a date where the school committee has actually taken some action on this, and I'm not sure if members have actually read this through. As you can see, this is City Charter Article 15, and it goes, it's very long, but this is a certain section referencing the Parks Commission and what their powers and duties are. On page 2, you can see it's listed from 1 to 16, all of the ballparks that the Parks Departments are actually in charge of. But in above that, you can actually see, I highlighted it on mine, the school committee may, however, during vacation periods of school, turn over the control of the use of designated schoolyards and school grounds to the Parks Commission. And it may turn over the control of the use of any designated portion of school grounds during the school years to the Park Commission. This releases jurisdiction provided if this section shall only be accomplished if and when the Park Commission in writing applies for and the school committee in writing authorized the same. So this is one of the things, we have already, I'm just bringing this back up because we have some new members, and last 2 years we've actually taken a vote after meeting with the facilities director. He will be meeting with Commissioner of Parks, Mr. Tim Carpenter, so they can get the logistics of turning over ballparks that we control, because they do have permitting going on throughout the summer, so we just don't want to interrupt it. This is something that we're going to have to address come start January or next year, not right now because we're already in the mix of that. So I don't know if Mr. Thompson wants to elaborate a little bit on this issue relative to the Parks Department.
So,
Ken, you can sit up here if you want.
no, I'm good.
You good?
I'm good, thanks.
He wouldn't know. Okay.
Over there's even better.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've been talking about this for a while with Mr. Rodriguez and others about the junior high parks. And so we've talked about the fact that we'd be taking them back and we'd be maintaining them and be controlling the rental of them. I'm going to be speaking to Commissioner Carpenter. I'm not sure what the historic numbers are for what they could rent, but we'll find that out as well. But I know there's a process we have to go through. A letter has to be written and formally notify them. So again, it's going to take a little bit of us to upgrade our facilities group, our grounds group a little bit, because it'll add quite a bit of acreage for what we need to do, but we're prepared to do it.
Thank you. Any Mrs. Azak, followed by Mrs. Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple of questions. I thought we voted on this to
Yeah.
take it back years ago.
We did. We voted on it, but the action was never actually taken in order to
And
rectify
we had a
that, so-
different legislative body.
Yes.
So then my other question is what is it costing us to have the city maintain these parks? What is it, do we have a dollar amount? Because if we're paying them to take care of them, but they're ours,
This is where the Schedule 19 kicks into effect. So if you go back to the Schedule 19 booklet that we received a couple of months ago, you can see the charges that they charged us. So in all reality, it's the parks that are maintained by the Brockton School Department, School Committee, that's being rented out and fees are being collected, and it's not under our care and custody because they're maintaining it.
I don't have the paperwork with me, but it's probably a sizable amount, enough to be able to hire a couple of people to oversee that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, okay. I'll have to take a look at that. But no, thank you, because I do know this is, Mr. Rodriguez has been talking about this since I think he first came on the committee, because a lot of us didn't realize some of these parks were under us. And I do have a question. The park right next to the one near Superior Court, what is the name of that park? The one where they're digging, is that ours, that little tiny green space?
Warren
Yes.
Ave.
The one on the corner of Warren Ave and Belmont?
Yeah, which one is
That's-
that? Is that on here?
No.
No,
No, it's
that's-
not.
No, but that's part of the unknown school.
Okay. Because I know we have parks here, but I'd love to see a list of every piece of land that we oversee, not just parks, because I didn't even know about that, to be honest with you. I thought that was just green space for the city. I didn't realize that that went with, I think of it as the old, the leather company. There was a factory there years ago when I was a kid. So when that got torn down, I remember it being around that vicinity. And I didn't realize that that was ours, part of our known. I thought that was part of the city's green space. So, I mean, that's good to know.
We maintain it, we clean up the park daily, because we get some homeless activity there, so we're there with our, with our grounds guys cleaning that each morning.
Okay. Yeah, because right now they're digging that up as part of the two-way.
They've taken a piece of that for the two-way, that's correct.
So did they have to come before us to take that? Is it part of like eminent domain? Sorry, am I? Are they supposed to come before us? Because again, they're taking a piece of that. I don't want to go off topic, but they're taking a sliver of it, which is great because they want to turn that into a two-way, I believe. So are they supposed to come before us if they're going to take it by eminent domain or we'll discuss that later on?
Yes, I did
Sorry.
reach out to the city solicitor regarding this issue, and they're trying to, I guess the way it's listed, it says the city, but the school department is there, but my understanding is once the city can just take it by eminent domain, but at the same token, there is a price value to that park. I didn't realize myself that it was school department land until somebody from the, that was working on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club that reached out regarding that parcel of land that we have to kind of.
I guess we can discuss that later on
Yeah.
the agenda because that did come up before and we
Yeah.
weren't sure. But okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Actually, I wish there was like a 3-ring binder. These are all the properties we own. These are all the parks that we own. There's a list of everything like in one general place. That way when we have members come on, these are our parks. These are our schools. These are all the buildings that we have. Like just one local place someone can go look rather than, we have to rely on our memory and rely on some of the experience.
We'll put together a list of all the properties that we maintain and have it circulated.
Thank you. Or just keep it in general. Just we have it at central with our policies and stuff. Just when members come on, they can get familiarized.
Or
I mean,
we could post it on our website as well.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Just a quick clarification. On the second page, the Parks Department only has 16 properties that they're responsible for. The city charter indicates that all parks and grounds that are adjacent to school property is maintained by the school committee. Mrs. Olive, floor is yours.
Thank you. Just to piggyback off of Ms. Azak, so that property, that little green area, we are maintaining it. We're
Yeah.
cleaning it up every morning, and this is why I always state that we need to have invoices from the city exactly what they're cleaning up and what they're billing us for, because we would have never known that you were in charge of making sure the employers from, the city side is the one cleaning up, especially when it need, if there's drug use over there, needles are getting picked up, that you guys are basically keeping it. It's a beautiful space, but I never knew that it belonged to part of our known. I never knew that we were basically keeping it up because it looks gorgeous. You guys are doing a great job with it. Another thing that I have a question is, with all the parks, middle schools, right, parks that supposedly they've been taken care of, we also been renting it. Who rented and where does those fees go to? Do they go to the city?
The Parks Department rent them, and they get the revenue from the rental.
Okay, but then it is charging us on the Schedule 19, all these fees of cleaning up, but they are also collecting money, renting our property. Is that what's been happening for years?
That's my understanding of Schedule 19.
Okay. This is why I not here, but I've been demanding invoices because you're charging us to keeping a property, but at the same time you're renting it and making money off of it. And the school's getting none of it in return. So this is why it's so important to make sure transparent is always spoke about, that we need to know exactly what's going on. Like what money's being spent, who's taking what money, to make sure that we're not basically in the dark all the time. But I do appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Some of the schools look gorgeous and beautiful, and I do appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
We've got a good crew.
Yes, you do, very much so. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, floor is yours.
Yes, Ken. I'm guessing this is right out of the charter, these pages here? Am I,
Yes,
Is that
Mr.
correct?
Rodriguez had got that directly from the charter.
and I was just wondering, on some of these parks that are listed here aren't even there anymore. And there's some that are not on listed. I mean, there's some that are there that aren't listed. Is there any way we can update this?
That would be through the city, but again, I believe our concern are just the properties adjacent to our middle schools are the only ones we're concerned with. The other the other parks around the city are maintained by the Parks Department.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because it's listed 2 pools that aren't there anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Right. Obviously, it hasn't been updated for years.
Is there any way we can update it?
Yes, I'm working with with Ken, and we're going to be meeting with the Parks Department to,
I don't know the name of it, Tony, but there's a park on West Chestnut Street.
behind the VA.
It's right near the back of the VA.
Next to the, sorry, it's across from the nursery, the daycare.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's not listed
yeah,
here.
yeah. No, I noticed that. I thought that, those are one of the things I thought that was probably the VAs, but come to find out, it's the city, so. This is on the Parks Commissioners to make sure that this is updated and working with the city solicitor, so those are one of the concerns that,
Is there any way you can throw your weight around and get that updated?
if I could throw my way, we'll have 2 more pools back in the city.
They got 3 listed here.
I know. Mr. Gomes and Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. I'll second what Ms. Azak and Ms. Oliver said about the space adjacent to our known. I also didn't know it belonged to the school district. I mean, I'm excited for the two-way street, but, you know, there's due process with everything, so I hope we can figure that out. My question is there any other properties that belongs to the school district that we have lost control over? Or that we don't know if it belongs to us, but it's just sitting there?
You're gonna have to look in the history books for that. The only properties that I would say is when we shut down the schools, that's about it. I don't have that information to say this park or that park. Whitman School, Howard School, Shaw School, am I missing another school? There was only 3, correct, Tim?
No, And I'm not even sure if it's still there. There's behind 45 Gordon Road, the Lincoln School.
The Lincoln, now it's a housing, yeah, the Lincoln School, so.
But the park, there was a park there too.
I think it's more of working with the city assessor's office to gather some of this information, so. Are you all set, Mr. Gomes?
Yeah, for now.
Mr. Sullivan, floor is yours.
Thank you. I just had a comment. If you look at the history of this, the schools did have possession of the fields, so the taxpayers know. The fields were given back to the city because the schools couldn't afford them. So if you look up the history of it, that's what you're going to find. So just so the taxpayers know, and all the new people know, that they were given back to the city because the schools couldn't afford it. Thank you.
That's it. Any further questions? Mr. Vega?
I have two questions, but Ms. Sullivan, thank you for providing some context. Was that done by vote? You said that the schools gave over to the city. Was that done by public vote?
I don't know. I just know that they were given back.
Is that-
We could look up the history of it. We could see the notes on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure the city has them.
Yeah. No, and I think what we're experiencing, right, is that I don't think there's anything dark going on. There's no, there's no hidden agenda. But I do think Brockton is a city that has a history of, I'll hook you up. Okay, yeah, we'll take care of this, we'll take care of that, and just ignores policy, right? And I think what we're calling for is we want to be in partnership with the city. We need to be in partnership with the city, but we also have these clearly mandated rules in the charter that seem to indicate that that should be done publicly, so that there's no confusion years later. My question, and I don't know if it's for the vice chair or for Mr. Thompson. At the beginning, you mentioned that there'd be a delay, and we'd kind of kick it into gear in January to take over. Is that to ramp up our crew's ability, or like why wouldn't it be in alignment with the fiscal year?
Yeah, I mean, we would have to ramp up our crew as well.
Okay.
So that would take a little bit of time.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And the last thing, you mentioned, we as a city, we know that we have a large unhoused population here in the city. Over at the library, we've noticed that some there's biohazard material that and that it requires a specific company to come and handle some of the things that are the result of everything from drug abuse to just human necessity, right? Do we have to do that same thing, with the parks? If we take, if we're dealing with some of the overnight things that happen with the parks and our unhoused population?
We primarily do needle pickup. They do come across some of what you're describing, and we do deal with it.
Okay.
But primarily, it's needle pickup, and they have gloves, they have pickers. So we give them equipment. They've been trained. So, we take all the precautions we can. But it's been an ongoing thing for years now that we've been doing it. We've got hot spots around the city, certain schools, by the Barrett Russell, behind the Angelo, that park we just took out. So there's 3 or 4 hot spots that we go out every morning and pick up needles.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
While researching this, the city charter, this is like in the 70s and the 80s, where our custodial crew, everybody, they just worked, they were seasonal, they didn't work year round, so they were off on vacation weeks and summer weeks, so we didn't have staff to maintain it. So the committee at that time handed over the control of the parks and our fields to the Parks Department to maintain only during the summer, because they were all, basically off for the summer. So that's the history that I've encountered on why they maintain it. But it was one of those things, nobody did it maliciously. It was like one of the things that just kind of, okay, just keep maintaining it. But one of the biggest concerns with me is, dealing with the athletics department. It doesn't make sense that our athletics department has to go to the Parks Department to pull a permit for our students to play on the ball field. And then we get charged for it. And then you look at the Schedule 19, doesn't make any sense. So it's, why are we paying for a field that's already under our control? So we just have to fix it, clean it up. It's not like somebody did it purposely. It was just something where the city was in some financial crisis back then, and we just had to work together to make it happen. So we just have to address it now. Mrs. Azak, followed by Mrs. Sullivan.
Just to piggyback off of what Mrs. Sullivan made a statement that, the schools couldn't afford it, and that's why I went to the city. Like, this is where I'm finding a lot of times, especially the past maybe couple of years, we'll be like, well, what happened to this? Why are we doing this? I think we're getting to a certain point, because we have, Dr. Tahiliani's administration. We're getting to a point where we really need to have better systems in place as new legislative bodies come on, new administrators come on. It makes it easier for us to then be like, okay, well, why are we doing this? Now we're questioning, like, if they did do that, when did they do it, and was it voted on? There's no history of it. We're not aware of this. I've served on the committee for a few years, and this is the first I've heard. So I'd like to, I think, in Mr. Thompson, honestly, you're new to this role. You're not new to the school district. I've worked with you directly, but you're new to this position. I can see us, you're very organized, and I can see us getting this organized to the point where it's going to make it easier for us moving forward years from now when we need to look something up, like these are the parks we oversee, this is why we do what we do, and why we have what we have. But I'd be curious to see if it was something that was voted on years ago that we're just not aware of. And there's really no one to ask. You know, sometimes you'd go back to someone that was here years ago, you know, why do we do what we do? But some of this stuff goes back, you know, 30 years, 20, 30 years, maybe longer. So if we did vote on it, I guess we'd have to go back and look at some of the minutes for some of the facility meetings. But I just wanted to make that statement. That's all. Like, I think moving forward with your leadership, we're gonna get this a little more organized, so it can help some of the committee members and those coming on understand what we have as a school department. Because again, surprise, that would have helped us with other issues that we were dealing with if we knew that piece of land was the schools. But thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan.
We would need to have like a cost analysis. What's this gonna cost? What is this gonna cost us? We would have to, how many people do we have to hire? What is it gonna cost the schools, since we haven't done it? And we would have to have the superintendent's input to, can we afford this? Because she's the main budget person, and we would have to get her input on it. Thank you.
And we will be doing that. Mrs. Sullivan will be providing that. We've got an idea of what it's going to take based on the property we maintain now with the staff we have, what it would take to add these 4 properties anyway, so we can put that together pretty quickly for you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 2, review of proposed rate changes for facility rentals, analysis, and consideration. Kent, the floor is yours. If you want to just go over the rate changes.
So I believe in your packet you got a copy of the revised rental agreement and a spreadsheet showing the old rates and the proposed new rates. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay. So the rental agreement itself was vetted by the city law department and our legal staff, and then went through and made some changes and some recommendations to tighten up some of the requirements and make sure we've got protection as far as liability and whatever. That was all included. As far as the rates, basically, we've put these rates together. These are rates that we're submitting to you for approval. They're not approved. We're still going with the old rates until you, as a body, decide what the new rates will be. As you can see, we've tried to reflect Brockton groups and outside Brockton groups to try to be fairer to our own people and the groups they represent. And that's kind of the overview of it, if you have any questions.
So if members can see where it says current, it's highlighted in yellow. Those are the current rates, and the projected new rates is on the right side in blue, where Ken and his team reviewed the fees that are being charged in comparison to other districts as well. And I don't think we've raised fees in over 20 years, 30 years.
As long as I've been here,
40
longer.
years. So these rates have been going back for a very, very long time. I don't know if
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan Forzos, he probably have, you're the dean, you have more history than I do, so.
Thank you, Ken. I was just wondering about the parking lot rental, where it says $500.
Right, we do a flat fee for parking lots.
This is at the high school, the parking lot at the high school. The reason I'm asking, Ken, is when I come in, I see the sign, Rocks Parking.
So that's a different matter. The Rocks use our lots, or they're allowed to use our lots for game day parking, but the agreement was in the lease and in the charter with the Rocks in the Campanelli Stadium was that we get 50% of the parking revenue. My concern coming in this evening was they had a sign saying Rocks Parking, but there was nobody charging for parking. So they're
Yeah, there
basically
was
allowing
a
our
bunch of cars
lot to
there,
be
too.
used for no charge.
I have that, the rocks issue, I have that under other business.
Well, to be honest, that's why I was wondering, is that what that's for, that $500?
No, with the rocks, it's a 50% split on the gate, for lack of a better description. Whatever they charge for parking, we get half of that.
All right, so they're charging nothing now. I
And
had,
that's my concern coming in this evening when I saw the sign.
so 50% of nothing?
That's pretty simple math, right?
I can handle that one.
Yeah.
Plus, I can afford it. Thank you.
Mrs. Azak.
Thank you. So that was going to be one of my questions. I talked to Mr. Thompson when I first came in. So we'll talk to under a separate matter. So when I chaired the facilities, we started meeting. Is it Mr. Pina? Is it
Yes.
Linda?
Yes,
Is it Linda?
that's Linda.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So I met with her a few times because there really isn't a drastic change in the rental fees. But given the cost of heat, electricity, just wear and tear on our buildings, it's a small increase. And I believe that department has reached out to other districts to make sure that we still are competitive, because a lot of them really reach out to us, if I'm not mistaken, to see what we're charging. And we've always been very competitive. But again, we're not here to make major money off the rentals, but it shouldn't be costing us money to have people use our schools in our buildings. So, this is, I would definitely, if it's something that the committee should vote on this evening and move it to the full committee, we could always amend some of these fees, but they're not substantial fees. And I believe there was a lot that was taken off of here. There was buildings that they weren't even renting out and stuff. So I know a lot was removed from the original because it was just wasted space. And she was able to clean this up, and your department was able to clean this up and make it more just easier when it comes to renting our facilities. But are we putting a motion forward, or is this just for we've been trying to do this for the past 2 years?
It's on the will of the committee if we want to approve this, but I just want to make sure members have questions. Mr. Vega, Mr. Gomes, and Mrs. Sullivan.
I agree that we don't want to be greedy. I also feel like we absolutely should be making money on our rentals. And I'm not talking about against the community, but, our rates for outside organizations that might want to use our facilities, we absolutely should be charging competitive rates, and we absolutely should be looking to create a revenue stream that comes into our district. I feel like we have facilities, especially when we talk about this theater, the main theater, when we talk about our fields, when we talk about our stadium. We have resources. We all are aware that those resources need to be invested in further. But even in their current state, they dwarf the resources of other school districts, and we should be leveraging that. So long-winded way of saying, I see what you these rates, Mr. Thompson, and they represent a jump that I think is going to help the district. I also wonder if, especially with our athletic fields, when I compare it to our neighbors next door over at Easton, it feels like somehow we're not quite in the hourly rates for fields. They seem to be charging a little bit more, which I think I've seen their fields as well. Makes a lot of sense to me. I just wonder, given the scope of our resources, if we shouldn't be a little bit more aggressive around our athletic fields. Everything else that I've noticed lines up, or surpasses for my greediness. That's great. But I just wonder if we could be a little bit more aggressive with our fields.
And again, these are certainly subject for review and
Yeah.
and your consideration, so we're
Yeah.
more than willing to make changes if it's the
And to
will
be
of the
clear,
committee.
I am not at all saying that we should be charging the residents of Brockton, the families of Brockton, the organizations that are part of Brockton, any more than what you've recommended here. But I do think there may be some room for growth for outside organizations. I've mentioned this before, there are a number, and it's a growing scene for filmmakers out there who would love to use a theater like ours or a smaller screening venue like this. There are all sorts of team and club sports that are out there that would love to use our fields, and so, and Mr. Thompson and I talked a little bit about this before the meeting. I also think we can be proactive in getting the word out, advertising, a little bit more, and targeting that advertisement to, organizations that will be particularly interested in what we have to offer. And I say all this to say I'm very excited. Ms. Thompson kind of comes in with knowledge and energy that, I think is going to be very helpful. And I want to see us leverage these properties as much as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Gomes, followed by Judy.
Thank you. I'll try to keep it simple. They've said everything. I agree with what all of you guys have said. I believe last year this did come in front of us. I still have that copy. And one of the things that we did emphasize was how much effort we're putting into advertising the spaces that we have available to attract not only within the community, but people from outside the community as well. And I agree with what Jorge and Joyce were saying. We should make use of these facilities, even if it's not to be profitable to that extent, but for it to be able to maintain itself and not having to take money out of the budget, that would be great. Same thing with the parking lot. I noticed that from the current rental, we don't have the parking lot line item, but now it's
We
been,
didn't have it, in the previous iteration, we didn't have it.
Okay.
We've looked at every piece of property, building, or whatever that's potentially rentable, and we wanted to establish a fee for it.
perfect. And I love that. It's a huge parking lot. We have space available, and I think we should make use of it. I had a question that just, Jorge was so into his, that I lost my train of thought. But, again, I agree with everything. And these fees are not extreme at all compared to what we already have in place. So I like these numbers. I think they work perfectly. We should make use of these facilities. And I think we should we should track the spaces that we have and how we're using them. The example that you've given about Mr. Sullivan talked about the parking lot and the stadium. We should have a conversation with them.
Absolutely.
I know we have a lot of events that take place at the stadium, and we all park here. Even if it's a small fee, we could definitely take advantage of that.
And I think to your point, if we're going to advertise and look to get more activity, going up in the rate may be appropriate because you're going to get more wear and tear to
Exactly.
Joyce's point of view. So, maybe the rate should, especially on the outside groups.
Definitely. Well, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, the floor is yours.
Okay, so if they've never been raised, then why raise them now is kind of my concern. And these are comparable to other school systems, you said?
They are.
Okay, we checked that out and
Yeah,
everything.
and our costs are going up, our labor costs are going up, our material costs are going up, so I think had we done it gradually over the years, and I don't think, when you look at it, they're really significant, they're not jolting numbers, but I think they're more than reasonable and more than appropriate for this time.
Okay, because I was just concerned on other organizations for the auditorium at the high school. I know the auditorium at the high school is used a lot by outside organizations, and so ongoing, it was $260, and now it's going to be $350.
Yes.
So that's kind of a big jump. And $300 for one time to $450. So $450, so.
I mean,
I know,
we
it's kind of
feel
a-
it's reasonable, and quite honestly, selfishly, there aren't many auditoriums around the district.
Right, okay. And I just wanted to get your reaction to that, Mr. Thompson. And also, on the rocks parking, my only comment is, you see a lot of fields being used and lots being used, but no one ever gets permission. Everybody just does what they want. Okay, I'm going to talk about East Junior High, East Middle School. That field is used all the time. No one ever goes through the Parks Department to get permission. They're supposed to, but nobody enforces it. So this is what you're going to be up against if you do this, just to put that in your head. Nobody follows anything right now. So they're supposed to go through the Parks Department director to get permission to use that East Middle School field. And we run cleanups there. me and a bunch of my volunteers, every year, a couple of times a year. And there's barrels all over, and they throw it on the ground. They throw the trash right next to the barrels. There's no respect for the facilities in this city. So that's going to be what you're up against if you go to do this. There's nobody even getting permission when they're supposed to get permission. Just so you know, who's going to be in charge of accountability? There's a lot of accountability that needs to happen in the city, in these schools, in the city. Who's going to do it? Okay, the Rock's parking. They used to collect. How come they're not collecting now? Because no one's going up to them and saying, you know, there's a charge for that. Who's going to do it? I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be me, because I'm getting old and I'm getting out of this business, okay? So I'll be looking for all you young ones to do it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, follow up, Ms. Azak. Oh, sorry, after.
Ken, I just wanted to point out that there's no weekend rates on this. I was just,
We don't, the rates are the same, nights, weekends.
well, the reason I ask is on Sunday, you have to bring in custodians and paying them overtime as a day off.
Right, but they get charged the rate, whatever the custodial rate is, whether it's a night, Saturday, whatever. And I think we've got part of that built in because the rate, I think the custodial rate is $50 an hour. So we've got money built into that rate because most of our rentals are weekends and nights.
Well, the reason I ask is, I'm guessing the custodians, if they're coming in, they got a minimum of 4 hours?
And that's what they get, and the renter gets charged the minimum for. They get charged for every hour that the custodian is there.
On top of the
Yes.
fee that you have?
No, it's an hourly rate, but they get, whatever they rent, the hours they rent, and the custodian is there, that's the hours they pay for the custodian at that rate.
Okay. I thought you might have forgot about it. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Azak, followed by Ms. Oliver.
Thank you. A couple of things before I forget. So, one, and I apologize if I missed it in the rental packet, but are we addressing long-term rentals? Because we did run into an issue for a couple of years where we had a church, without the committee's knowledge, renting out one of our schools. That something like that should come before us. Where is that?
It's in here.
It should come before us. I think long-term rentals need to come before us for approval. I get it. We usually don't have churches. But what if one of our churches had an emergency, something happened, we would be a good neighbor and say, that's fine, you can use, but it would be on an individual basis, and they would have to.
Besides the church, I've never seen in my time here a long-term rental.
Okay.
We have recurring rentals where someone will rent a gym for the season. That's where it says ongoing. The rate's a little
Yes.
bit different because it's ongoing. But other than that church that you're talking about, we've never had a long-term rental that I'm aware of.
Okay, because that's, I just want to make sure, because I think that's what really started me looking into this.
Right.
Is we need to make sure that it was costing us money. We had, given what they were, and to Mrs. Sullivan, so they were getting donations. They were charging, so people, for example, I know we're going to talk about the parking and things like that, but, for example, dance recitals, over the years, we went from $10, and now we pay $20 and $25 a ticket. So they're upping their fees, but we're staying at a standstill. So again, I think we really need to, it's not a substantial amount. We're putting a lot of wear and tear on our buildings, where a lot of them are upping their fees. I think this has been a long time coming for us to finally just increase it. And it's not a huge increase given what we're providing. And then I'll talk about the parking later. I know it's a different agenda item, so we'll talk about that a little later. But so it's in here, long-term rentals, if any, need to be approved by the committee.
What do you mean, long-term?
Like if for some reason, like just, a couple of months, or like I said, say a business or someone has an emergency and they don't have a facility, and we can be a good neighbor and say, well, it's coming before the committee. Yeah, I'll just use it, say, a church or somebody has something, or someone's renovating and they need somewhere to go. We would have to, as a committee, approve it. Same with, we've had other things happen, where we as a committee, they called us and said, is it okay? We normally don't do this at our schools.
Okay.
Is it okay if we do this one time? So as long as committee approval for certain things is in there.
Well, based on the rental fees that you have, there's no consideration for long-term rental, so it would have to come before the committee, I would believe.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanted specific language written in there, motion, second, and a vote, and it passes.
Okay, then I would make a motion that if we do have a long-term request, anything more than, I don't know, maybe a 1-month rental, that it would have to come before, maybe a 3-month rental come before the committee. We'll work on the wording and maybe we'll make the motion. I'll withdraw that. We'll work on the wording with our attorneys.
Okay.
Because I know we just don't want to run into what we ran into for a couple of years.
Actually, Peter's here, our attorney here. I don't know if you want to jump in. Answer Mrs. Azak's question regarding wording on adding any long-term rentals need school committee approval. I don't
Yeah,
think there's any-
it would just be on an individual basis. If something was to happen, and someone would just need to use one of our facilities, for example, we had a church I think it was every Sunday, and it was quite a few hours every Sunday, and it went on for, I think it was almost 2 years. It was definitely over a year and a half.
2 years.
2 years, where it was actually costing us money in the long run, and the committee wasn't aware of it. So if there's something that we, as a committee, should be notified. Again, there's a new director, and things are a little different under Mr. Thompson's direction. I'm sure he would notify the committee if something like that came in. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All set, Mrs.?
Yeah, I'm just, because it caused a lot of confusion, and it caused a lot of questioning, because we normally don't do that. So we just didn't want to make it a habit. That's why it would be an individual basis. But I can always reach out to you, and we can figure out what type of a motion to put forward, or the wording. Thank you.
Ms. Oliver?
Just to piggyback on what Ms. Sullivan was stating, just to ask Mr. Thomas, once we get control of all the elementary and the middle schools park, right, and we are going to keep track of who's renting it, nobody's using it without rental, right? Putting the process in and make sure they pay the fees.
Right, we'd have that as part of our rental agreement for those particular properties as well, but always one thing to remember, they're public, it's public property, so you've got to differentiate between an organized league or an organized group versus 10 or 15 kids out in the field playing soccer.
Yeah, of course. Like if there's going to be, like I know at East junior, middle school, every summer they have a big barbecue, and there's a
Right.
big event going on. So events like that, even at all middle schools, definitely if they're going to have those type of events, they have to come through
That would go through
us.
the rental office.
Okay, just want to make sure, and if they do have a big event, we have to figure out what's the process of basically, I don't know, fine, whatever we have to do, because now they have to go make sure they clean the property if they left trash for our guys to go clean up.
Exactly.
Okay. Maybe this is not for this time, but maybe we can bring it up later just to figure out what the rocks. I don't think I've ever seen the agreement, the contract
We're going to
between
talk
them.
about that under other business.
Okay, if we can do that, I'll do that then. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Sullivan?
Just one, Ken, the rental fees, who will be collecting those? Would that be you?
No, that's to our facilities rental office at Central. Celinda DePina.
So somebody will be
Yeah,
collecting?
yeah, she's in charge of that. She collects it, she makes the deposits, she records it, so she handles all of that.
And the other thing is, I was reading through the introduction, you have to have insurance, $1 million insurance,
Yes,
and proof of it before you can rent the,
we get approved before they get the facility rental agreement signed.
so does that proof go to her too?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Just to piggyback off that, prior to me getting on the committee for over 20 years, I've rented Marciano Stadium for organized football. And she's, trying to remember the other lady's name, but Zelinda will not give you anything without that insurance binder at all, and you have to have all your ducks in order. And then whatever the costs are estimated, you have to give the deposit, and then you get a letter from her stating you've been approved or denied. And that also goes, I believe the city solicitor
Yes.
gets that as well because of the liability, so nobody, organized teams will not utilize that. The only thing is that I understand, like, as far as the liability is our youth sports, raising fees, and that's why on the bottom in yellow, after our meeting, we had waived fees will be determined by the superintendent on a case-by-case scenario. Not to mention the name of the organization. They rent out one of our properties for a summer program, and then when you calculated all the fees, I think it was about 67,000. It came out to $67,000, and these are 300 to 400 students from Brockton that are in the summer program, and it's just like, that's not sustainable for that program. They're not going to be able to pay that fee, so the superintendent, through the director, actually waived, they're only responsible for 20%?
25%.
25%, which is a huge savings for them, because if they get that bill, there would be no program, and now we're doing a huge disservice to those students. So that's why we wanted to make sure that case by case, where those organizations can appeal to the superintendent and the director to waive some fees,
That's a good
specifically
move.
our youth sports.
Good move.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Azak.
For some of the members, Mr. Sullivan, we get a weekly email from Mr. Pina that shows us all the rentals, whether it's school rentals or it's outside rentals. So the facilities we have a lot of rentals that are happening, whether it's in-house with our schools renting them out for different events, or we have outside rentals coming in. But we do get those on a weekly basis. And she pretty much handles, I believe that's what she handles the whole facility rental department. But for those that get the emails, that's what it is. Every week she sends them out to us. I know I get, I think, 2 emails indicating who rented them out. And we started that once we started looking into this to see what facilities are being rented out more than others. And that's why she narrowed this down, because we had a lot of facilities that weren't even being rented. So I know that she cleaned up this application and the rental locations.
Any further questions, comments? Mrs. Oliver?
Do you need a motion now, or do we have to wait for the verbiage?
No, to approve the rental rates, we can get the motion now and get that, so that can be forwarded to facilities, and Zelinda can move on that.
Okay, I would like to put a motion in. Is it going to be for FY '26? Or just when we're going to start the
I
second
think FY '26.
FY '26? Motion to approve the new facility rental fees for FY '26.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Oliver, properly seconded by Mrs. Azak. A show of hands.
Motion,
On the motion, Mrs.
it
Sullivan.
has to go to full committee for a vote.
So we
Yes,
take a
I know,
vote
but
here
it
and then-
still has to go to the
Yes,
full
yes,
committee.
yes,
Just reminding everybody
Yes,
about
yes.
that.
We'll do a roll call vote. So the vote is to approve it in subcommittee. From subcommittee, it goes on, it'll be on our June 3rd agenda, which is the first meeting, our next following meeting after the budget hearing. We'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Sullivan?
I'd just like to compare. I know Ken said that they're comparable, but to other schools and see on some of them. So I'm going to abstain this time.
Okay. Mr.
Yes.
Gomes? Mr. Vega?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
No, I think it's too high.
Myself, I am a yes. Subcommittee passes. We'll move this forward to the full committee. Next, I just want to, does anybody have any concerns on the facility rental packet with any of the verbiage, language, if you had the opportunity to review this? Before I get to any questions. Ken, on number 2, I know it says, where it says all school vacations, I don't know if we can kind of,
Where are you?
on the facilities rental packet, number 2. 'Cause when we look at, when you say all school vacations, we have youth organizations that are having activities during vacation weeks. I wouldn't want to, hold off. I mean, unless if there's something where we don't have
There's a specific
staff.
reason we do that. It's not that we don't have staff. School vacation, summer vacation, that's when we do all our deep cleaning. We do our stripping, waxing, painting, or whatever. So that gives us unfettered access to the entire school with nobody in it. So, I mean, other than, I think, and Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we might have rented out a gym during school vacation or whatever, but it's confined just to the gym area. But the school itself, that's the reason we've always done it that way.
So like the gym and the fields, those are still on the
The
books?
fields outside, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because if somebody goes and says, listen, I want to rent out this field for the junior boxers or the Raiders football during a vacation week, and they're like, no, you can't, so I just wanted to make sure. I understand the classroom, but like the gym.
Right,
space.
yeah, the
Okay.
gymnasium or the outside grounds, that wouldn't be an
It
issue.
would be an overtime expense if it's after 3 o'clock, the staff works 7 to 3 during vacation.
Okay, thank you. And then on number 21, if we could just update the superintendent. That individual is no longer the deputy superintendent. Bassapolo.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
that's,
that- Yeah,
I think he's in a penal institution.
no, he's no longer with us.
Wow, sorry. And the other one is, I don't know if this is on the will of the committee, it's where it says rules and regulations regarding the use of Brockton High School Fine Arts Department. On number 2, it says there is no food or drink in the Fine Arts Auditorium, but it says lobby area, little theater, and the core room. My only concern with that is that during like our band and our theater club, drama club, they actually use the lobby to sell food for fundraising, so I don't want to have, that area kind of like restricted for them to raise funds.
no,
I
I
don't know
mean,
if there's-
again, that's where the flexibility comes in. If it's one of our groups, we work with them on that. We're concerned about outside groups
Outside,
bringing in
okay.
food. We don't know what it is, where it came from, whether it's going to end up underneath seats or wherever, so it just limits that exposure.
All right, thank you. Any other members? Mrs. Azak?
So, Mr. Thompson, do they really enforce that, though? Because I've been here for dance recitals and other events, and they're here all day long, so they do have food. Do we limit it to a certain area where they do, if they do have the food, that you got to stay, like, for example, in the music room, and then not eat anywhere else?
We try to enforce it, but again, if there's a group here working and they're going to sit in one little area and have a sandwich and clean up, we'll work with them. But I mean, we have to have a policy, because if you get too flexible, then the next group wants something a little more, and
Then we
next
end
thing
up
you know,
having to
everybody's eating at their seats.
bring in exterminators
Right.
and, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? My other one is graduation's coming up, and usually we have a lot of individuals selling flowers, but on rules governing the use of outdoor facilities, I thought this was something that the License Commission had authority, because on number 3, it says vendors who wish to sell on school grounds must make an application to the facilities manager. I'm not sure if that's ever.
That should be amended, because we don't allow any sales on school property.
So we should amend number 3.
Yes.
Chair?
Mrs. Azak.
Maybe amended, but also make an exception that maybe our PTAs, PTOs, or our schools, because I know I've spoken to our PTAs and PTOs about fundraising, rather than have outside companies come in and sell flowers.
Yeah.
We should, and I know they sell them for other events, band,
But
Yeah.
again, remember, this is a facilities rental package, so in-house, we have our own discretion on how we
Okay.
handle our own groups.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns? Seeing none, I will move to item number 3, presentation of priority facility improvements and district-wide facility updates. Facilities Director Ken Thompson, discussion of projects and status, needs and next steps. You're doing a PowerPoint. I gotta get out of your way.
So bear with me on this one. This is my first foray into the clicker.
hopefully they give.
We'll let Tim do it. Tim, you wanna run the PowerPoint?
And before I start, I want to acknowledge Kim Tsai, who put this presentation together, and want to thank her. So this is basically going to focus on a handful of projects and conditions around the district, and give you an idea of where we are with it, the costs involved, and what we're doing. So this first slide is paving around the district, and as you can see, we highlighted the top 6 schools, and those pictures are taken at various schools around those 6 locations. So over the years, we've done some paving. We've gotten some earmark money over the last few years. We did some paving at the high school, we did some at the Hancock, we did some at the Raymond, and we did some at the Davis. But the entire district, but these are the priority schools here that really need some work. And what you'll see is the estimated square footage or square yards of the properties that are listed up there and the estimated cost. And that's a budget cost, but I spoke to a paving contractor, and that was a budget number he gave me in terms of the per square yard price. And those of you who are not familiar with the term milling, if you drive around the city, you'll see a lot of work going on right now in the streets. And what they do is they go in with a milling machine, cut the existing paving down about 1.5 inches, clean that surface, and then repave over that. So it's not a full reconstruction, but it gets you what you need for a significant period of time. So again, the cost is significant, but it's something that, you know, we need to do. Our grounds guys do a great job. Every year we go out, we patch potholes around the district. We patch them year round. But we haven't had significant and severe winters, but yet when you get that freeze thaw every year, you're getting this kind of results. Our concerns are they get worse. You've got kids walking the parking lots, staff walking the parking lots, vehicles. So it's something that's of concern that we're going to need to address long-term. The next one, no, did I click too fast? No, we did that one. Okay. So this next one is the roof at the Goddard. We've talked about this in the past. As you all know, the Goddard is over 100 years old. It's a slate roof. So what we're proposing, what we would propose to do is remove that slate roof, do the remedial work needed, and then put a standing seam metal roof on. If any of you have seen the Huntington School, that's what we're recommending to do. And you can see the cost, the way we've estimated. We've got a construction cost based on a square foot, and we have an architect we consult with that does some of our smaller projects, but he gives us some budget numbers to work with. So that's why you'll see, and there's a contingency in there because, again, once you start ripping that slate off a roof, you really don't know what's under it. We're estimating a certain amount, but we always carry a contingency for unknowns. And then the 12%, as you see, that's the design. That's the design of the project. They manage it through construction for a total cost based on that 10,507 square feet. Again, does the roof leak? Yes, it does. We have been dealing with, we have a roofing contract out. He comes in and does some patching for us, but long-term, we need a new roof because we're going to be there. It's a facility we're going to stay in, so long-term, again, the roof needs to be replaced. This is the Barrett Russell. We have one boiler at the Barrett Russell. All of our schools should have 2. So what you see there is the cost to put a second boiler. The boiler that's in there now, as you can see, is a 2007, so it works. We maintain it. We've done repairs, and again, our staff do a phenomenal job of maintaining all of our equipment. But again, we're looking at the fact that we've got one boiler, and if that one boiler goes down, we don't have another boiler. Other schools do, so this is a concern of ours, and it's been a concern, and that's the cost, and there's a description of the work there for you. Same holds true with the Champion School. This one is a little more costly because, as you can see in the bottom, that's the existing old boiler, and that's covered with asbestos. So it's going to cost more to abate that and then do the demolition. So that's why you'll see that the cost for that school is more than it is for the Barrett Russell. And again, the same theory, one boiler, we need 2. This we've talked about in the past. We're talking about an elevator for the Goddard. Right now, We have no ADA access to the second floor. What they're doing over there now is all of those services are provided on the first floor, but the intent is to be on the second floor, but in order to do that, we need an elevator. And that picture just shows you where the elevator would go. That ramp would come out. We would build the elevator shaft on that wall and then put in a new ramp. Elevators are expensive. And again, there's a contingency there because you're dealing with an old building, you're dealing with subsurface conditions we're not aware of. So again, it's something that's needed, but it's costly. And I work closely with Cam Jackson in our grants department. Cam and I and Jamie, we work closely together, constantly looking for any opportunities. I've talked to the superintendent. If anything comes her way, she sends it. We actually looked at the roof at the Goddard, but under an MSBA program, but the problem is it has to be a student-populated building, so this one didn't qualify. So we did look at it. So we're constantly looking at whatever opportunities we can grant-wise to fund some of these projects. So that's kind of the overview of the really immediate needs right now around the district. And I can answer any questions you might have. Those are the ones we did.
Okay. Mrs. Sullivan, followed by Mrs. Oliver.
Thank you. So I know the district had a strategic plan, and some of these projects were on there.
Right.
And just to go back to East Middle School, because I talked to the previous superintendents on this. East Middle School, the curbing is so destroyed that it's not even really there anymore. And the parking lot was promised to be done before the deficit. And so I just plea that we can do something with East Middle School. We did have a lot of fencing down in the back, and I worked with the Parks Department to fix that, and they did replace a lot of sections. There is a problem back there with public drinking last summer, which I did address, and school police and city police were doing drive-throughs there. But I know we got new doors, and I thank you for that. We got new doors this year. We finally got something. And I really thank anybody that was behind that, because it wasn't me. I'm not going to take credit. But they look great,
No,
too. The doors look great. But I really plea that the curbing and the tar, or asphalt, what we call it, needs to be done over. That's one of our Compass middle schools, and that really needs attention. And I thank Kim Tsai for, because I know she's accountability, and she's been going around looking at this.
Yes.
And I thank you too, Ken, Mr. Thompson, and Jamie Domestico for all that they do on facilities, because they've done a lot of good work. But I just make a plea for East Middle School. I'm glad to see the Downey on there, because the Downey was another one that needed attention all these years. I know one question on the Downey, Mr. Thompson, is I know there's a city league there, and you go down this hill,
Right.
and that down there is really bad. And I don't know if that's a city responsibility or the school's responsibility for the asphalt there.
That's still our parking lot. When you go up the hill and then down, that's part of our property.
Okay. So down where the city field is,
Right.
is ours?
Yes.
Okay. That needs a lot of attention at the Downey. Would this be addressing that?
Yeah, I think, in fact, I think Downey was the #1 school on the list in terms of
Yeah, it was when
needs.
you put it up there, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thank you for all your hard work.
So, just informational, so when I met with Ken and his team and Kim, so we went over what were like priorities to the facilities department that needs to be addressed sooner than later. But Ken's gonna work on the facility, the whole improvement plan, which will,
We'll be doing a master plan for the entire
Master.
district, because, and again, a lot of what we do is in-house, and again, it's been done in the past, but it needs to be updated and, more current to the conditions.
So we'll get that probably around September.
Yeah,
I don't want to put a time frame. You know the time frame, but I don't want to give you a deadline. But yeah,
It'll be
we
sooner
definitely need
rather
to
than later,
update
as
that
they say.
district-wide. Mrs. Oliver, then Mrs. Azak.
Quick question, the boiler currently at Barrett, how old is that boiler?
That
The
one,
only
I
one
believe-
alive right
I
now?
believe the one at the Barrett is 1999. Let me just check. I don't want to go backwards.
1999?
1999, I believe. Let me just, no, the Barrett is 2007. The one at the Payne is 1999.
Okay, so we have, yeah, that definitely has to be a priority, because if we only have a one boiler, and that's a kindergarten center.
Right.
And if it goes, basically all the kids are gonna have to be home.
Right.
Right, and that's gonna be
So-
really, really tough on the parents that we don't have a working school for them.
So my thought is now that we now have our contract services that we discussed at the bid review meeting, one of them is a plumbing contractor, and they do boiler work and whatever, so we could, and that's funded, so we could use some of that service to keep our costs down to facilities about, us buying the boiler and using some of their service, doing our in-house people. So we're looking, Jamie and I are looking at putting a package together that's going to reduce our outside expenditures versus what we can do in-house. So,
Was that water on the ground?
Excuse me?
Was that water on the ground, on the picture?
Yes.
Is that coming from the boiler, or was that the water leak coming from?
That might have been from a groundwater. I'd have to look at it. There could be groundwater, there could have been, the boiler's not leaking.
Okay.
No, the boiler,
I'm
the
I'm
boiler
looking at the
run.
picture, I'm like, was there a flood there that we
Yeah.
didn't know about? I
No.
mean, it,
No, that could be groundwater, that could be a leak over the roof.
okay. Because that one and also the other school, I think you said it was Garden with asbestos, or the Champion School?
The Payne School, that old
Payne
boiler has
School.
asbestos on it.
Which I think that we did request it when I first started, when it was all the move, air quality testing on there. Right, we did that, or we did it at the Garden School? The Garden, right?
Yeah, we've done air quality testing
Have we done it at the
in the classrooms. We've done some classrooms, but that's in the boiler room we're talking about.
especially with asbestos that you guys are going in there, if you guys going down there, I just like the risk of, cancer and stuff, I just don't want to make
Right,
sure that
right.
nobody's risking their life doing that.
No, and understand that the thing with asbestos is if it's not disturbed, it's not a threat. It's when it's disturbed.
Yeah, I know, I definitely, but I'm just like,
No, I
just,
no, we.
yeah,
please-
just make sure
please
you
trust
guys
me,
are
we-
safe
we
at all
would
time,
never
and nobody's
send
touching
anybody
it and stuff like
Put
that.
them in harm's way. We would never do that.
Perfect. And I think the one thing is like, I do appreciate the garden with the elevator, that you gave us a realistic number of what was gonna cost. Cause I think it was a joke before when it says like 100,000, 300,000. There was no way an elevator was gonna cost that much. So I do appreciate that you did give us a realistic, like, it's gonna be over $1 million. And I hope we do have like, we can get grants to, fund it, cause we do need to get an elevator to make sure that we're, with the federal, regulations and stuff, especially if we have older adults that's going in, they can't go to second floor. So I think it's something we definitely have to think about and make sure we get that moving. But I do appreciate that you have realistic numbers there, and then we're working to make sure all the schools are safe, and especially the air quality, especially for the young ones. The last thing we want to do is have them breathe in some toxics and
And
cause
for
more harms.
information, we do a significant amount of air quality testing around the district.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ms. Azak, followed by Mr. Vega, and Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So I was actually going to reach out to you, so I'm glad I saw Brookfield on there, because that was one of the conversations I was going to have with regard to their parking lot. But Brookfield, just in general, Brookfield, we definitely really need to maybe reach back out to the city. I know when we have heavy rains and things like that, we have so much water over there. It's like water view. We have a waterfront property. I've been there with Mr. Domestico. It's cute, but my concern over there is the when the water is just sitting there, it's got to be damaging the exterior bricks and stuff like that. So there's been theories over the years. I would definitely want to try to see what the drainage issue is over there. And then I don't know if we're running into the same issue again with the parking lot that was like that for like 20 years. We might just have to take another look at it. But I was going to reach out to you. But if we can just make sure, because I think that's causing a lot of the damage, is the water settlement It's causing major damage to our parking lot over there. And then as far as some of these buildings, like I know we're over at the Goddard, and that's just a hefty amount. Some of these buildings, these are really large numbers that if we can't get the MSBA assistance with, I just want to make sure we're not going to have any building moves after we invest this kind of money into these buildings. Given that we've talked about things moving along for the future, if we can, we have some of our buildings that need updating, but I would definitely like to look into that a little further and see how we can, whether there's grants and things like that. Those are pretty hefty numbers.
And to answer your first question, we're working closely with Commissioner Hill. They're very much aware of it, and they've been a good partner with us. They've been up there when we've asked them to, and they're doing investigation and trying to, so they're on it. and
Oh,
they're working on
absolutely,
it, and,
absolutely. Last time I was there, I believe I met Mr. Domestico up there, and it got to the point, though, where it was so bad, we were very close that they might have had to have just, sent the kids home early, because it was getting really close to one of the doors. Rather than wait until it's an issue, I'd rather look into it and have some time, because it's just an ongoing issue that we've had over there. Our first graders have fun with it. They got we got the fake ducks and we got the real ducks floating around in the water. They have fun with it, but it's definitely a concern, because I don't want to have to shut our schools down. Or if it's in the wintertime, it freezes over. So if we can, I'd be happy to work with you, whatever we need. If we can work on that before we have another issue, because the last one was pretty bad, but, the city was out there. They were out there. They were pumping the water down the street. It was almost immediate, because, school department reached out to them and said, listen, we need you to get out here. And everybody working together. It is teamwork. But I'd like to finally just come to some kind of a solution as to what is going on over there. What do we need to do? But, so I know we talked about the roof. The heating systems, I just know from working in the industry I work in, a lot of times they don't make those heating systems like they did years ago. Those things last. I mean, we just looked at a house, and the heating system was 60 years old. I don't want to jinx it, but it was still running, no issues. They made them to last years ago. Would it be something as far as mini splits? Is this something that we could look into when it comes to this? I mean, is it because you have the heat, you have the AC, and you can control the rooms.
Well, right now, as far as AC, all of our classrooms have AC. We've got they've either got AC through the building system, or they've got a window AC. We did that a few years ago. So
Okay.
they all have AC, and you need a power plant, for lack of a better word, to provide the heating through the entire building. So I don't think the splits would be practical.
They wouldn't, yeah. I was wondering if there would be, I mean, those are older buildings.
Right.
Maybe with something newer, but okay. No, definitely. I know we're always looking at different options that are out there. And I know a lot of people are looking into those nowadays, but no, thank you. I appreciate your time. And actually, can I get a copy of that PowerPoint?
Yeah, so we'll have it sent to everybody.
Thank you.
Just real quick, on the Brookfield, is that do you know what the issues of, I know I've seen pictures that it's, when you've seen ducks floating in the parking lot, that's a major concern. Is that, what is the major issue causing that? There's not enough drainage there, or?
There's a drainage issue that they're working through and they've got to get the piping, find out where it goes. I mean, it's significant, because you can tell by the way it backs up. So they're doing a lot of work, more discovery right now, and find out where it goes and what it does. And I think it's going to be a project at some point in time, but they want to make sure they know exactly what they need, where it is, and what it's going to take to fix it, and then we go from there.
Yeah, if we could get a Commissioner Pat Hill to tell us what the priority on it, because it is a school, and it'd be unfortunate with the weather if we have to shut down the school because of
I mean, sometimes it could be
the
just
pond out there.
simple fix.
So because that's part of the stormwater fund that the city collects, right? They could use money for that. Am I correct?
It's possible, yeah.
Because I know they just depleted that whole account for one issue that, for a private business, instead of utilizing that with our own students. So that's a concern to me, depleting stormwater funds for a private business when we have our schools that need to be addressed. And this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to make sure that the committee knew some of the projects that needed to be addressed because funds on the city side are not being allocated properly to our facilities where our students are going to school. So if we can get
No,
that.
and that one was actually, when I first came on the committee, I'd hear about, oh, we've been complaining, and nothing's happened. So the first thing I looked into is I reached out to our facilities department. It turned out that there was, I think, a pipe that was just crushed. So it wasn't draining properly. And like the parking lot would just flood for over 20 some odd years. And between the school department and the city, we worked together and they brought in their heavy equipment and they were able to figure out, I think, Mr. Thompson, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like a crushed pipe or something.
so.
And it wasn't draining the water properly, and that's why we were having so many issues. And our parking lot was just getting iced during the cold weather. But that's been an ongoing issue there. And it just that last time was very concerning, where they were putting the salt bags. But again, Mr. Thompson, his team, Mr. Domestico, you call them, they're there. They're there. They're on the job. They're getting it fixed. I never have to worry about it. But they always put the students first, our students in our schools first. But that water was getting up to the to the sandbags, and that's what was concerning with myself and the principal at the time, because you don't want to have it interrupt the students' school day. But I appreciate all your help with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pugh? Mr. Sullivan, followed by Mr. Gomes.
Ken, I'll make my question real quick. The Barrett Russell, did that have 2 boilers at one time?
Yes. I don't know how long ago, but at some point they did.
That's right. When I seen the picture, it looked like there was a
Yeah,
space for
there was
another
a
one.
pad on the other side.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gomes?
Thank you. These are some hefty numbers, I must say. I had,
And in all fairness, I err on the side of caution when I put the numbers together or have them put together, because I would rather the number comes down than goes up.
We all
no,
want it to
I
come down.
appreciate that. The one thing I had noted here was when you were talking about the roof for Goddard, and you did mention it as soon as I wrote it down, the roofing company that we have a contract with. Can we use some of those services to drive down the numbers?
That contract basically takes care of small repairs.
Oh, okay.
We have that because, again, and you're all familiar with the district, every time it rains, Jamie and I come in the next day, and the phone calls are there, and we count how many leaks are where. So that contract serves that purpose, to do a major project like this. This would have to go out to bid,
Yeah.
so this would be a roofing contractor.
And then I'm excited to see the master plan, especially considering all these tasks that need to be completed. Where the fund is coming from, what are we gonna do if we need to allocate more money, where, what are we doing, how it's gonna be, if it's phased out step by step, which projects are we gonna do first, if we have the funds available, so on and so forth. So as soon as you have that.
And that's what we'll do.
for us.
We'll prioritize,
Yeah.
because we all recognize it's students first, it's education first, and, but at some point, if you don't have the facilities to educate the kids,
Yeah.
so there comes a time when it's time to pay up as far as the facilities, and I think we'll put a plan together, and we've got the complete support of the superintendent and the district team, so I think, we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys, and thank you.
Ms. Oliver, followed by Mr. Vega.
2 things. I know last year during summertime, a lot of the schools that held summer programs, they were having a lot of issues with the AC. So I want to make sure, especially South. I know I had visit the program then last summer, and there was no AC. A lot of the rooms was really extremely hot for the students. So I want to make sure that you guys are going around to check all the schools, especially during the summer with the AC issues.
What we'll do is we take and look at the summer program schedule, and then we try and be proactive and go around to those schools and make sure. A lot of them are window units, and they've been
Yes.
there a while, so we'll make sure they're charged. We do have some in stock. If we have to replace them, we will, because we know how hot those buildings can get.
Perfect. One little comment, I was able to attend last week event with the superintendent, Dr. T, at Kenny Montero's karate studios. And one of the thing that really brought to my attention was a student, and they was asking a question of what they would like to see happen in their school. And one little kid was said the school painted. They want more artwork around the school. They want their school to look pretty. So I think that's something we definitely, now that we have a great team, you leading it with your team to basically see all the schools, we can do painting inside, just to brighten their day. I think it's, a lot of the schools are very blank, very, not bright, especially for young students. You need that artistic arts on the building because it kind of helps motivate them more and their brain to function better. So I think it's something that we can look into, just like brighten up the rooms and paint like the hallways and just make it a little bit more welcoming
Yeah,
for our
absolutely.
students.
And we've done that in the past. We just finished a lot of painting here at the high school. If anybody's know, we did, I don't know how many months we were here, James?
Just about the whole school.
Yeah, just about, so, and we've gone out south, we've started painting it south. And that's back to my point about why we need the vacations, we need the summers.
Yes.
With nobody in the building.
I agree.
And all of our custodians, during the summer, that's one thing they do. They match, we have a vendor that matches up the colors so we get consistent color. But if anybody wants to change them, they just gotta let us know. And to your point, brighten them up, absolutely.
Definitely. And then also the students, as part of the National Honor Societies, or they have to do some, any type of work, they should definitely reach out to us. They can do some volunteer work because it goes on their paperwork and also college application.
they wanna do
Come
some
and
type
help
of-
us out.
Some kind of mural work or
Yes,
whatever.
that would be great. We have a lot of artistic kids,
Yeah, no,
like,
that'd be great.
especially if I just went to the library the other day, and some of the artwork from even our third graders were incredible.
Yeah.
So definitely bring our students to help us out would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Vega?
Just a quick question and then an ask. Before, I just want to applaud you on that partnership with Cam Jackson. I think, internal resources leveraging each other is fantastic. When we talk about the roof over Goddard, what's the life expectancy on those metal roofs that we're looking at?
Tens and tens of,
Yeah.
almost forever.
All right, so yeah, so that's an investment where.
That's a
we're-
long-term
a lo-
investment,
yeah, and-
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that. I've observed this at West and at Hancock, and I suspect probably this is the case at other schools in the district. As we set up our priorities, long-term, I think security needs to be one of them. I think, I know at West there's some challenges around doors and them not closing all the way. I know the principal and others are going around double checking them. At Hancock, I think there are some challenges around the cameras or the number of cameras that are there and the spots that they're covering, as well as phones in classrooms. An emergency situation could be critical. But with all these things, I know that it's something that has to be kind of looked at in a holistic manner and planned for. But I think as we think about our master plan and we think about things like the security audit, I know I really focus on the high school, but our middle schools and at our elementary schools, unfortunately, like schools across the country, are seeing, situations where additional thought on security would be key. So I'm really hoping that we can fold that into the master plan.
And to go back to what Mrs. Sullivan was saying, all of our 4 middle schools are all going to get their doors replaced. That's the plan. We're going worst to least worst, I guess, is that the right word? And east was the worst. And cameras, we do have a safety and security grant that we're going to buy more cameras with, and that's in the process now. And I've been working with Joe Campbell, with Cam Jackson again, and we're going to then get input of where they need to go. The more cameras we can get, the better off we are. And that'll go down into the middle and elementary schools as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? My own thing, when you mentioned that the Goddard's, one of my priorities, making sure that the roof and the elevator gets done. Also that parking lot. How does the Goddard not qualify for that grant when we have, I don't want to call it a daycare, but you have.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You do have young children in there.
You've got one pre-K daycare room, classroom, basically, is all you have. I think so. Otherwise, it's community schools offices on the first floor and adult learning on the second floor. So if you don't have K through 12 occupancy, it didn't qualify for the program.
Wow. That's
And
interesting.
we did make the inquiry. Cam called a couple of different people that she knew and got the same answer.
Now, for the guarded roof, are we looking to apply through MSBA first, or is this something that we're gonna have to work with the city to see where?
And again, it all depends on the because that program I just said that we didn't qualify, that was an MSBA
That was
program.
MSBA program.
So they come up with different programs from time to time, so we always watch that. And again, we also watch for the grants, but it may be a collaborative effort with the city at some point in time as well.
Wow, that was a concern. The other piece, I mean, like, I know Mr. Vega mentioned about security with the cameras. This is just me. I'm pretty sure you guys all share the same sentiment, is that all of our school properties need cameras at every square inch.
Yeah, we're-
In those cameras, I understand, like, the monitoring and everything, it's almost like, we need a fusion center. For those that don't know, it's like, the state police has what they call a fusion center with cameras, but, with the district, when we have these cameras, is there like a central location that gets, that it's fed into? Is it just the security cameras at South Middle School, only the
And then
administrators get that?
then, again, Joe Campbell handles our camera work and installation, so we'd go to Joe Campbell and say, we need the footage off this camera at this school, and he would pull the footage for us.
So,
So there's no central station that someone sits there and watches.
let's say, for example, our school police officers, they can't just log in and just say, let me look at this school and look they can't do that?
I believe they have access, and for the officer, I believe, school, that's what I'm saying, you can log in,
Okay.
right, but no one sits there and monitors them, or, whatever. If there's an incident, the school police, or, like I say, Joe Campbell or whatever, a principal might call and say, I need to know what happened in this spot, so we can do that.
Because we did approve here at the high school, the old Harbor One, that was supposed to be, there was, I believe, one position that was created, that somebody was supposed to be there to monitor all of the cameras. So-
That's actually in discussion right now with Lieutenant Banaka and Sergeant Livingston, and they're talking about doing just that, is to have an individual, whether it's going to be a rotating situation where security specialists maybe each, but that's going to come about.
Okay, no, because I was just wondering, where we are with that, because, we did have enforced 911, and that didn't take effect, and, we had a company come in and give us a presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that, I understand IT has their role, but, when it comes to security, everything should fall under the school police department to make sure that
Right.
they're in tune with
Yeah, we
this.
work
So-
closely with school police.
Okay, thank you with that.
Chair?
Mrs. Azak?
Thank you. Actually, you just reminded me of, at one point, I know this was right as we were getting out of COVID, we were talking, because something about the server, because we kept asking about getting more cameras, and we were told the server couldn't hold anymore. This might be a different department, Mr. Thompson, so I hate to put you on the spot, but maybe the chair remembers, but I know we were looking into getting more cameras, but it had something to do with the main server. Either there wasn't holding more cameras. It didn't have enough memory or something. I'm not sure if we can look into that, Chair, because again, we sit, we meet, we vote on things, and then it's times like this, we're like, oh, well, wait a minute. There's nobody there. There's nobody monitoring the cameras. Where are we with more cameras? Where are we with the server? So it's just, it's a different department than yours, but I would definitely like to see where we are with that, and then where we are with the extra cameras. We can never have too many cameras. This day and age, the more cameras, the better. We talk about safety and security. It's easy. Our officers, our staff can just, those that are authorized can just log right on, and it does help us when things do arise. But Chair, if you don't mind looking into that and see, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? I'll just end it on this, and I share the same thing with, I'm at East a lot with community schools, with programs, and even walking into some of our gyms, they do need some paint. Sometimes it feels like you're walking into a certain type of institution. Color, brightens up a kid's day, and just walking in and just seeing concrete doesn't sit well with me. I know you guys are all on top of that, but I think it's something where we could work with the arts department. Mr. Gomes, you're the chair of that subcommittee. If we can work with the arts department to see what they could collaborate with facilities to make sure that we bring some artwork and stuff into our gyms, because just walking into a gym and just seeing a backboard and a scoreboard and just concrete, that it needs some tender care to.
We have
you
a
know.
lot of talented students too, so it would be nice to make use of that as well.
Yeah, so we can get that. So, but as you can see, we have a lot of. And this is just a glimpse. This isn't even the master facilities plan. So when I meet with Ken, it's just like, what is our priorities? What needs to be done? Thank you for the subcommittee when we met back in December for approving the designs of the turf fields, because that's a huge undertaking to make sure that it's not just for our students, it's for the community as well, and it's an investment in infrastructure. Thanks for approving the Davis. I worked with State Representative Michelle Dubois to secure some state funds to get the basketball courts there, and I've been on top of Ken and Jamie to make sure that that gets done as soon as possible. And it came under bid and doing some work in-house, and we can identify all of us going into our schools that we represent in our wards. Let's not wait for facilities. Like, let's have our wish list, and how can we get this going? How can we get there? But at the end of the day, there's a cost to it. When we have to have our priorities moving forward on how to get there. So, other than that, thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Thompson, Mr. Sullivan.
Just one follow-up question. You said the elevator, there is no elevator at the cottage,
No,
but have we turned down students to go there because of that?
no, like I say, and I don't know the entire enrollment, and it's all adults.
Right.
Whatever services that are needed are provided on the first floor. So there's no need to go to the second floor. They recognize they can't get, if they had to provide those services, it would have to be on the first floor.
Right.
So no one's been turned away
And
that I'm aware of.
the other question is, the old superintendent was talking about some kind of lift rather than a full-blown elevator.
Yeah, we had looked at possibly putting what they call a man lift inside the building, but the amount of construction that you would have had to have done, and it was a one-person lift, it just didn't suit the needs of what that building needs.
Okay. But the cost was a lot different. He was talking $200,000 compared to your 1.2.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about a lot of numbers, really, without any really hard facts. So the number you have before you has been.
It sounded good.
Yeah, oh, sure.
It sure did sound good at the time. Are you all set, Mr.
Yes.
Sullivan?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sullivan?
What turf fields did we approve?
In December, the committee approved, there were several fields. That's going to be on the next agenda. You'll get a copy of that for the members
Yeah,
that
it
didn't
hasn't
attend.
gone to full committee.
No, it's in subcommittee. We didn't put it on there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Azak?
Sorry, one last thing. I know the gentleman that had donated that storage unit that was going on the track and field. Is that all set? Did we approve that for him? Someone was donating it. Was it
Other
for the
business.
No, that's-
under other business?
that's
Okay.
Another item, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we don't want to hold that up. Okay. I'm ahead of myself. Thank you.
None? Thank you, Mr. Thompson, and I'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch.
Get things squared away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I get to Attorney Peter Mello, can I just get a motion to postpone the executive session per advice of the legal counsel? That will be moved to our June 3rd meeting.
Motion to delay on the executive session to another meeting.
Second.
Motion was made on item 6, postponement of executive session by Mr. Vega, properly seconded by Mr. Gomes. Show of hands. Show of hands. And it's unanimous. Next agenda is discussion of the Keithfield property. Attorney Peter Mello is here, who will give us a status update and potential issues concerning future usage and legal requirements related to the matters for review for the proposed project. Attorney Flores, you could grab the mic, or if you want to sit up here, you're more than happy.
Whatever,
Whatever
whatever
you-
you prefer. We can be quick on this. I just want to basically briefly update the subcommittee on this. We have a meeting scheduled next week with the attorney and representatives of the club. One of the things I'm hoping to pin down in the course of that discussion is precisely where. Oh,
Yeah, we can't hear anything, sorry.
Is that better? If you, I can also sit down if it's
Yeah,
easy to
yeah,
hear.
it's
Okay,
better with you.
sure.
More intimate.
Grab here, too.
There we go. Better? Okay. And like I said, I feel almost greedy taking up a whole section of the agenda, but this can be really quick. I just wanted to update the subcommittee on this matter. We have a meeting scheduled with the Boys and Girls Club, some of their representatives and their attorney next week. One of the things I'm hoping to pin down in the course of that discussion is precisely where the club is proposing to locate the easement. I think once we confirm that fact, most of the remaining issues to be addressed will flow from that. That basically is it. I think hopefully that meeting will be helpful, and we can update the subcommittee thereafter. And I'm obviously happy to answer any questions anyone has in the meantime. But for now, that's where we are. And I just basically wanted to briefly update everyone on where we are and what the next contemplated steps are. So.
Any questions? Mr. Gomes, followed by Ms. Azak.
Okay, so when is the meeting next week?
It's Thursday, the
Thursday.
5th.
And let's say you guys have the meeting and you get the information about the easement, what comes next? Where does that take us?
Well, hopefully we'll have some better sense of precisely where they're proposing to locate the easement. And then I think exactly what issues have to be decided and what legal issues and practical issues have to be addressed in terms of what that would mean for the remainder of the space and how that would impact the committee's desired future use of the space. All those questions, I think, flow from that kind of fundamental question. And it's also, there might be, and I don't want to create the impression that we'd emerge from that meeting with a definitive sense of, okay, this is it. Here are the metes and bounds of exactly where we want to locate the proposed easement. There might be some follow-up questions to address in terms of what approvals might be required in connection with a particular location, or, legal questions that might need to be addressed to confirm that particular location is available, or engineering issues that, logistics that have to be worked out. There's a lot of moving parts, but I think the first question is, okay, where is this proposed easement going to go, and other issues that the committee would be required to address would flow from that fundamental question. So.
Besides the location and maybe some logistical terms, do you anticipate any legal issues that might come up?
What you mean after that issue is decided, where the possibly, but I think it's probably premature to get into particulars of that. At the moment in the context of this meeting, I just wanted to bring everyone, basically keep everyone in the loop about where we are in our communications with the club.
Okay. If you could keep us updated, I know one of the suggestions I made to the chair of the subcommittee is I would love for all of us to sit down, because there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of things coming up from different individuals, and let's talk.
Yeah.
I would, everybody on this committee wants to see that project come forward. And we just want to know what's going on, what are we trying to address, and how can we move forward.
Yeah.
And I remember I mentioned this, you know, if we can have, whether it be through executive session or whatever the necessary ways of meeting for us to ask the questions, talk about it, and really be on the same page.
Yep.
Whether it's legal terms, logistics,
Yep.
I just want to know,
Yeah.
put it simply.
Yeah, agreed, and I think that was really the impetus for the meeting, and one of the core objectives of it is to have the dialogue, I think, that needs to happen, so.
And it would be great to have it with the, you know, stakeholders and people that want to invest in this project as well.
Yep.
You know, besides it just being us and our legal counsel. But thank you for what you guys are doing, and hopefully we'll hear from you after Thursday
Yep.
as far as where we stand with this project. Thank you.
Ms. Azak, followed by Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Mello. So I served on the subcommittee as chair for a few years on this, so I some of us go back to when this all started. For those that are watching, I'm not against the project, but there's something that's under new business that unless we thoroughly discuss something and we have it in writing, I find that things that we're doing now is a guessing game. Who's responsible for what? You know, you relinquish a part and you give someone an easement, you're pretty much saying you have full use of it. You know, an easement with restrictions, depending on, you know, if they are, well, going through the Eagles is not going to be a question anymore, because we were told when we had that meeting at Central, we met with the attorneys and a couple of them and to discuss some issues that came up. And we were told, due to the new safety building, they can't even look at that as an entrance. So my question is can we get a final design? Because it seems like the design keeps changing every time, you know, someone comes before us. You know, 1 minute, this is the design, this is the plan, and then all of a sudden, next time they come before us, it's a totally different design. I've seen, I think, 3 or 4 designs, and we just keep going back to the original. So if we can get a final design, and you know, this has been going on for years, get a final design. We requested at one point, we even did a trip right to the location. We asked for drone footage. Carve it out, spray paint it out, chalk it out. This is where it is, and this is where the easement will be. It's hard to tell when you're looking, when you're right on the ground, it's hard to really see where the boundaries are. So, you know, supposedly it was staked out, we went, there was no stakes. I get it, things happen, kids might have moved things, but we've asked more than one occasion, get a drone footage. We have a drone, just carve it out. We need to see what we're looking at. And I don't know about the rest of the committee. This is a wonderful project and anything for our kids, but we also need some kind of a barrier. We have people driving into houses, into buildings, off roads. Where is the barrier? Where is the protection? We have kids that are playing, possibly kicking a soccer ball. It could hit a vehicle going by. Like, where is the barrier? Like, where is the wall? What are we looking at to protect the drivers that are coming through while kids are playing a sport? I haven't seen that on any of the plans. So we ask all these questions. We really, you know, try to be thorough, because I don't want this to keep coming back to us and then it's going to cost us money that we have to do all this stuff. So it's a great program. I'm in full support of it, but we need to iron out some of the issues that are at hand. You know, on the contrary, it's all over social media. Some of us are against it. We're not. But we're putting these seats to make sure that things are done properly, as we're running into an issue with another agreement that when you're in an agreement with an outside entity, it's a little tough. And it's a guessing game. It's our job to make sure it's all spelled out so nobody wonders who's responsible for what, and we're not giving up a piece of land, especially if you're doing an easement. So hopefully I'm making some sense here, but I mean, we're going back to the rocks. You know, we go back to the rocks, and we just ran into an issue with that, and that's going to be on the agenda. But I had constituents calling me, and it's like, here we are, we're in an agreement with an outside entity, and we don't know who's responsible for what. So I just want to make sure, this is our job to make sure it's done properly. So a lot of us are not against the project, but let's just do it the right way. Do it the right way, make sure it's done. And also, something was brought up as far as like the safety building. It's fine, there's not a lot of traffic. You know, they're not there all day long. Well, they can change their programs over the years. Why not do it the right way from now? Why wait till there's an issue and then all of a sudden there's too much traffic? It's imagine if there's a safety vehicle trying to get through and they can't get through because people are picking up kids. So I remember that entrance. Someone at the meeting had mentioned it can't happen. So if we can get these answers, and we're not delaying the meeting. If you can clarify, we hadn't met with them for over, I think the last time we heard from them was 2023, and then all of a sudden, December of '24, we had a meeting. So the committee's not delaying it. I'd like clarification. It's not us. We're asking the questions. They're just not coming back with the answers in a timely fashion. So,
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that this is obviously for a lot of good reasons, a proposed project that's generated a lot of interest and, strong feelings. And, my hope is that going forward, we can soften or lower the volume. And I have a really good rapport with their lawyer, whom I've known for years, and, for whom I have a lot of respect, which I think is mutual. And so I think we're hoping to have productive conversations, and there's a lot of details to iron out and to pin down. And that's the objective here is to identify those and be meticulous about addressing them, and professionally and cooperatively. And that's the hope. It's not a straightforward proposition. Obviously this is treasured property. It's public property. It's school property. It's an important resource. The committee, I think, rightly wants to consider how it wants to use that property in the years to come for really important purposes that will from which the students will derive great benefit. So there's a lot to think about and a lot of details to iron out, and I think the hope is to have productive conversations and work.
I think we've had a lot of conversation, though. That's
well, I'm
that's the
talking about
issue.
with the club.
Yeah, I mean,
and-
even with the club, this has been going on for years.
Yeah.
They want to get their project going. We want to get this going for them as well. Not for nothing, it's been going on for years. We've met numerous times. No offense, but our legal fees every time. Get us a plan, a final plan, and let's just get the ball rolling, and let's just make sure the easement wording is in there. And honestly, after tonight, surprise, surprise, I didn't know the school controlled that piece of land next to the Boys and Girls Club. I had no clue. I mean, that's another option. Here we are talking about easements and entrance and exits. I never knew that was part of our known. I always thought that was part of the old leather company. I can't think of the name, but it was a factory that was over there. And that's another option. Maybe they weren't even, and I know someone mentioned it during one of our meetings, and we didn't think that was an option for them because we had no control over it.
Yeah.
But it's part of our known, so we kind of do have control.
Yeah.
So that can probably help them also understand, like, okay, now we have another option. If you can't go that way, or give them more than one location, be able, entrance, exits, to just, in case the traffic picking up the students and stuff gets to be, congested at times. But I just feel like all we've been doing is talking, and I'm seeing some of the negative stuff online, and yeah, it bothers me because I am for this project. But I also want to make sure that we make a sound decision and make sure things are done properly. Originally they were going to hand over the whole piece of land. I'm like, that's over 4 acres. Given an acre plus is a substantial amount of land. So, again, many of us are in support of it. We're not trying to roadblock anything, but I agree with Mr. Gomes and Mr. Vega and a few other committee members. Like just sit down, meet with them, and let's just get this taken care of.
Yeah, this project, I think the focus in past years was the carve-out, which of course, as you'll recall, that was the subject of lots of discussions and meetings, and ultimately a decision was made by the committee about what piece of the property to carve out. Well, there wasn't, the emphasis at that time wasn't on the access question. And certainly the committee knew at the time what it was forfeiting.
Yeah, they gave us a
right.
different plan.
Right, so I think now the question of access only emerged later, and that's really the focus now. So, I think what I'm saying is my goal is to sit down with the club, get everyone around the table and talk about what they want, where they're proposing to put this specifically, and then the other important questions that have to be determined thereafter will kind of flow from that, so, but.
Definitely, this is something that the school committee brought to the city council for them to deem surplus. So, and then the piece of land was under 200K, an acre plus. But now it's costing the city millions for something that we deem surplus. So it's, again, like moving the access easement and things like that. They're talking about using the stormwater money and things like that. Like, we just need to sit and look at all the options they have. And now that we might potentially, if the committee agrees on it and approves it, they might have access through that little, green space area, the park area that they're digging up now to widen the street. So it's been either dragging on, like this has been going on for years.
Yeah,
Like,
so
let's get the ball rolling and get it taken care of, or just,
Yeah.
it's just been in limbo.
Yeah, so hopefully some of these details will come into focus during next week's meeting. And like I said, I'm happy to come back and update the committee, the subcommittee thereafter. And in the meantime, obviously, as always, available, anyone has any questions, if you want to reach out, happy to chat.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, followed by Mr. Oliver, followed by Mrs. Sullivan.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. This project has taken a long time. I heard 5 years, 4 years. It's been so long, I'm not even sure how long it's been taking. And my question is, what is the holdup? Is it the easement is the holdup?
Like I said, I mean,
Or the floor?
right, right now, as we're sitting here, we have a meeting next week, and we haven't pinned down yet where the club's proposing to put the easement. Again, I'm trying to focus on the conversations going forward. I don't think it's productive or, really helpful to dwell on, or to go through the genesis of the history of this. Like I said, the emphasis to date, or in years past, was on the initial determination of what property, what piece of the field property to carve out, right, and to put up to deem surplus, and then that became the subject of the 30B procurement, right? This question about access emerged much later, and that's the conversation we're having now. Okay, is it necessary to secure an easement to access that property that was carved out? If it is, does it require the committee? Does the access have to occur over property that the committee controls? If that's the case, where is that property? And then it's on the committee to decide whether it wants to devote that space for that purpose, and any other legal issues that have to be, or other logistical issues that have to be answered, in connection with that decision, can be decided, will come into focus. But the initial question is, okay, where are you proposing to locate this easement? And we don't know that yet. And I've spoken with their attorney, and we've talked about the need to identify that. So again, I don't want to, I feel like there's a lot of strong emotions and feelings about this project for good reason. Again, it's an important piece of property, a lot of history, and there's a lot of great ideas about how it could be used. I think my hope is to kind of tone down the pitch of the conversation and meet with the club and its representatives. Again, its attorney, with whom I have a great rapport. And let's focus on what you're asking, and what we need to do in connection with that request. And so hopefully, the meeting will be helpful next week. And again, I'm happy to update everyone after we meet,
Are you meeting this Thursday or a week from Thursday?
a week from Thursday. Yep,
Oh, okay.
June 5th.
And just for the record, I am 100% behind this project. I'd like to see it go forward. Thank you.
We all do. Ms. Oliver?
Thank you. I definitely agree with you that we definitely have to tone down the heat. I think it's a lot of emotion of everybody. I don't think any of us basically saying we're against this project. On just defending myself as a new member is also Mr. Gomes. It was just thrown in our lap, right? Of course, we said we have more questions. I'm not going to be voting on something that supposedly it's been, been talked about it for years. But suddenly, as a new member, it was pushed on. I was like, oh, I'm not going to vote on something that I don't know history of it, right? And nobody's against it, but we want to make sure everything's lined up. All the T's are, crossed, all the I's are dotted, to make sure when we do the vote, it was legally done. So years to come, they were like, oh, you guys made a big mistake just doing without knowing what you guys were talking about. And they do provide good service to our our students and the kids in the city. But we also have to think about thousands of other students that wants to basically use the field. What are we going to use the field for, the remaining field, right? So we have to also think about the future. Like, families that live around there, what do they want to do on on the field? So we have to also think about the future, but nobody's against it. I was never against it, but I wanted more information. I'm not going to vote for something that I had no idea what was the history behind it, how they got this land, how it came about, what was promised to them. Those are the things that I want to make sure I ask the correct questions, so later on I don't regret voting for something. But I do appreciate the talk is still going. They have to understand that we do have process and that the lawyer's working with them, but we just want a design. We want to make sure that the way it's going to be done is done correctly and it looks appropriately, so when we are in the future, it looks decent. It's not something just half, and then you just want to do it to do it. We need to make sure it goes with the, that the architect, everything around it looks pleasing and it looks beautiful to just beautify Brockton. It's just not just to do whatever they want to do. But I do like the process, and we definitely have to tone down the heat. Everybody needs to understand that we're not the bad people. We're just here trying to make sure we do it appropriately and just move forward. Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Mello, for all the work you've done on this. I just have a couple of comments. The legal fees are very high on this. This has been on the table for 5.5 years. This easement has never gone to a vote of the full committee. We keep spending legal fees on this. There's hundreds of kids on a waiting list at the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club is trying to expand so that those children can be serviced of their excellent service that the Boys and Girls Club gives to these kids, gets kids off the street. We've had kids killed in the city. This is a positive experience. It's a proven experience for kids to get these kids off the streets. The RFP was already voted on by a previous committee, I believe. I know the RFP was voted on. I know the new members. So the RFP is already voted to go forward. We're only voting on an easement. It needs to go to a full vote of the school committee. City council has already looked at the easement. The culvert, they will fix, and they are fully paying for it. It was reported at a city council meeting. The eagles and the bricks will be updated, and in the reproduced photos, it's a marked improvement to what is there. The bricks will be updated. There's crumbling brick there. Everything will be saved, and the new that's there now will be saved. The eagles will be reproduced and look beautiful. And I think the family that gave us the permission to control this land would want to see this project go forward. Thank you very much.
And
Mr. Mello? Attorney Mello?
Ms. Sullivan, I certainly respect, the sentiments and the place that, that all comes from. Just to be clear, though, the RFP you mentioned, the subject of that RFP was the property that was originally carved out. The proposed, and I know it's legalese, and it's easy to kind of conflate, but we don't know the precise area that they're proposing to locate the easement. And again, that's one of the things that I'm hopeful we can pin down when we speak next week. And we might not determine that definitively. It might be something that we have a productive conversation about, and it might require some follow-on review. But just to be clear, that there's no, when you say an easement, there's right now, as we're sitting here, to my knowledge, there's no proposed easement area. Conceptually, I think the hope is that some portion of this property can be used to provide access to their proposed project site, but there's no definitively decided easement area as we sit here, and that's one of the things I'm hoping to get some clarity on when we meet next week. So I'm just saying that to avoid confusion. So
Yes, but there was a proposal through the Eagles.
I don't want to belabor the particulars, but more recent conversations, in the course of more recent conversations, I think my understanding is that that's technically not feasible. And maybe there's new information on that we can discuss at the meeting next week, but that's my understanding. My current understanding of this is that what was originally contemplated as the access point isn't feasible as a matter of, as a technical matter. So again, it's a fluid conversation. Maybe there's new information, and maybe further conversations will yield some other information. But right now, that's what I'm saying. It's important that we identify what they're proposing, where they're proposing to locate this easement, and then most of the other issues, I think, flow from that. So,
Thank you.
just want to clarify.
Thank you.
Mr. Vega?
I mean, I just want to start off by saying I agree with everything that everyone has said. I just don't agree with the process that we've utilized. And here's what I mean. We've said that we've talked and we've talked and we've talked and we've talked about this. I just want to be clear. I joined in April. I've been a part of one meeting that happened in December about this topic. I have since asked for the opportunity to bring the folks in so we can ask questions about the easement, so we can all learn more, so the public can learn more. That has yet to happen. I've been asking since the meeting in December. Now, I've had the opportunity, Mr. Mello's made himself available to me, had a good conversation, helped me understand some things. But one meeting is not a lot of talking. Now, I know some of you have been here longer, but I will just say that for me, I don't understand how we could go from December to now, knowing that there are new members who haven't been a part of the conversation and somehow dictate what happens next. And what I mean by that is, at that meeting, I brought up the Eagles, and it was decided that we would not touch the Eagles. I didn't vote for that, because I'll tell you right now, I would vote to move them. And I know it could be done because I've been a part of projects like this before, where the original goal of the marker can be preserved and actually elevated, right? But there was no discussion about that, right? So I agree with everything that everyone's saying. I just disagree with the process. We're talking about toning things down. Why is this the first meeting where we're toning things down? Because I've been asking for that since I joined. And now to hear that somehow this is the topic, the boys and a topic we all say we agree on, this is the topic we need to tone it down on? There's a lot of things here that just don't make sense to me, right? And I mean, also when we talk about process, I don't understand why we need to have a private meeting about this. Are we in some sort of negative litigation? Because I've been asking that question and I haven't gotten that answer. And if it's simply that there are logistics that need to be ironed out, easement details that need to be figured out, I don't understand why the public can't hear that. So again, I'll say what I said at the beginning. I agree with everything that we've said tonight. I just strongly disagree with the process that we've been using on this topic, because I have only been allowed to ask questions and learn more on one occasion in meeting. And furthermore, when I chose to do independent research, I was told in no uncertain terms to stay in my lane. So I don't understand how we make an informed decision when we have members of the committee like myself who have been able to access one meeting, introduced to the idea in one meeting, told that we would follow up shortly thereafter, but still sit with one meeting. So again, you know, I'm not here to ratchet up the tone. I think I'm the lone member of this committee who has regularly brought up the fact that we need to tone things down. This isn't a hot meeting. This is people asking questions and wanting to learn more about a thing, and we haven't been able to do that. And I don't blame Mr. Mello. I don't blame the Boys and Girls Club. I blame us. We do this stuff all the time. This is a no-brainer. It's a win for the city. It's a win for schools. It's a win for boys and girls. And there are details that need to be figured out. It's an important decision. We just approved over $1 million potentially in spending on a roof or an elevator, right? Like this should not be the thing that drags on and on and on, right? So again, if we're going to make an informed decision, we need to talk about it. We all need to be a part of it. The public needs to know what's going into the decisions that we're making. And none of those things have happened.
All set. I'm going to end this. I don't want this to go around because it's going to get kind of touchy. So the school committee at that time, including Mr. Sullivan, Mrs. Sullivan, myself, and Mrs. Azak, we carved out that land specifically to save the Eagles, which Mr. Sullivan, Judy, myself, and Azak voted for, including the mayor, to save that, to preserve it. So that was out of the question. Two, it's this committee's job for us to dot our i's and cross our t's to make sure that we don't cost the city more money, because this body was the one that was blamed for the $18 million deficit. So why would we take on an action that's going to cost the city more money? And for those that know, the city does not have the funds. It is a concern to me that the city council will vote to allocate $3 million of stormwater money to a private company other than our schools, as you can just see what Ken Thompson just presented to us. So let's just kind of let the course take its course, and the team will meet on June 5th. The attorney will come back with the proposed easement access, and we will take a lawful vote to either support it or not support it. And I don't think anybody in this room doesn't support it. It is frustrating that we have members and elected officials that try to point at specific individuals that's been holding this project afar. And we will have a timeline for the committee and for the public to show why this took so long, including members of this committee that were in charge of facility subcommittee meetings that never moved it forward. And then also the timeline of how it stopped. And when I became vice chair in March, they reached out to the committee in December, and we had them come before us. And it was the new members here that asked for more information, and that's where we are right now. So we're going to have a fluid, nice, productive conversation to make sure that we see this project move forward in some way or some form of fashion. So I can end that on that. So if we can kind of,
Actually, Chair,
I'll take a breath on that. So I'd rather not
I-
move forward on
but
that.
I have a right to ask. So,
Mrs. Azak, the floor is yours.
thank you. Attorney Mello, can we turn it into an executive session and have members meet so we can get our answers, our questions answered, rather than the going back and forth, I just find is what is taking so long. Like, some members want to sit down and actually meet and ask these questions one-on-one. Mrs. Sullivan mentioned the RFP. Yeah, we did have an RFP. An RFP was awarded, but then they came back asking for an easement after we awarded the RFP, correct? So, again, why can we not have an executive session and meet with them, the committee members that are interested in meeting, give them the opportunity to meet, ask questions, and be in on that?
I don't think we could meet with the club in executive session. There may be an executive session purpose that potentially could be invoked. Purpose 6 comes to mind. Just to be clear, a lot of people, when they think of executive session, they think of litigation. To be clear, there is no litigation associated with this project or proposal whatsoever. But it's possible, I'd have to give thought to whether we could appropriately invoke Purpose 6 to meet in executive session, but that wouldn't be with the club. We couldn't meet with, I don't think we could meet with the club in executive session, but
So maybe can we get you a list of questions that we have, and we can get answers to those questions if we can't physically attend the meeting? That way we can get these answers, these questions addressed. Anyone that's got any questions, like, for example, give us a final plan.
sure.
Where's
yeah.
the carve out? Where's this? Where's that? Like, we really need to, they need to move on with their project, and we really need to wrap things up a little. But it's just, I see the frustration with the rest of the committee as well. But some of us know the history as to why we are where we are. And it's just, it's not as simple as something was awarded. It was awarded and something changed. And if we could just do that rather than, that way you can come back to us and give us answers on those questions.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't, although I think that it's more prudent to sit down and iron out some of the details and some of the particulars of what they're proposing before you dive too deep into the weeds in a public meeting. But to be clear, once the proposed easement is established, I think a lot of these issues can and in fact should be vetted publicly. There's no, I'm not suggesting that any of this needs to be, behind closed doors. Sometimes you don't want to necessarily introduce the potential applicability of a legal issue that isn't really applicable. It's something you want to look into, but maybe not, open up for public consumption for a lot of reasons. But no, I think a lot of the questions that I'm contemplating when I say that, once we know the precise area in terms of the proposed easement, a lot of the other issues to be decided will flow from that. These are issues like, where does that leave the remainder of the space? How could that space be used? Those are issues I think that can and should be discussed.
Because I think we just wanted to make
publicly,
sure it was
yeah.
a regulation-sized field.
Yeah.
And then to Mr. Vega's point, I think it was just the terminology that was just confused. There's no litigation, but when we retain an attorney and then they have an attorney, we go through our attorney to discuss stuff with them. Us going directly, we're one of 7. If it was just me, it's a little different, but I'm one of 7 members. So that's why it's always best that we let the attorneys communicate, but we communicate to our attorneys any questions, any concerns that we may have, and then we would schedule a, like a field trip or a site visit. And we have done site visits in the past. We've done more than one, I think 2 or 3. And the last one that we did state, this is it. Just come back, do this, and come back. So hopefully after next Thursday's meeting, we can just move forward. So again, it's a wonderful, it's all about the kids and what we can get for the kids and the students and the families of Brockton, but we also need to make sure that it's done right.
Absolutely.
So that's the only thing. So thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor for a few minutes.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. My strong point of view is before we take a vote to grant any easement access, we have to dot our I's and cross our T's, because for the longest time, I've been frustrated since I got on this committee, certain things were done without doing the homework. So the homework needs to be done to make sure that we're getting what the committee voted for. And we'll just wait till our meeting next week, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That being said, any new business?
You-
Seeing none.
You were going to discuss the rocks.
Sorry, Attorney Mello. Under the new business, I did request through the city law department to provide the original, I don't think any members that's here, even Tim was part of the committee at the time when they built the Rock Stadium. I did get the contract, which expired in 2020. And then there's been 2 contracts that's actually been signed prior to that. But there's specific language. I'll make sure all the members get both copies, but I just want the attorney to review it, and we can review it ourselves, and we'll add that contract to our next facility subcommittee. It's just the city signed a contract with the Rocks organization without the school committee's approval relative to our parking lot. So when I did my research, so there was an agreement back in 2020, 21st Century Corp was actually the arm that was managing the property, and there was language in there specifically that included that our students get the usage of the field to play baseball. In this season, there was a lot of issues that they weren't able to start on time, of who was maintaining the field. Also, there was supposed to be a Hall of Fame museum that the school department was supposed to create and run out of the Shaw Center, and also usage of the Shaw Center. The biggest thing was at the parking lot where certain fees were supposed to come to the school department, and from the onset of that agreement in 2000, whenever they did it, the school department has collected 0. Also, the last contract there was an event at the Rock Stadium that the school was stiffed over 20 grand on receiving from their parking lot fees. I was totally against my opinion. I am totally against the Rocks collecting any money on our property for the simple fact, for the history of the school department being stiffed since the onset of that project, up into including that the city had to spend millions of dollars of renovating Marciano Stadium, which that was part of the agreement. So then this year, the city side did do another contract with the Rocks and didn't come before us or get our approval, which I'm kind of upset. So that's going to be forwarded to the legal counsel so they can review that and come back and making sure that if there needs to be amendment, and making sure that the committee is in agreement with that. The other piece is the donation for the track club. That's also going to go, it's sent to legal counsel to review that because it's a semi-private youth organization that the donation was made, and then they're paying for everything, so it doesn't cost us anything. But Ken has to review, he has to get engineers because where they want to locate the shack, I guess they have to cut out some of the, because it goes in the hill out back there, if you guys are familiar. Talking to the head grounds guy, Mr. Clark, saying that they have to dig out some of that hill in order to put a retainer wall, and there's a lot of stuff there. So they're going to vet that out to see where those funds go. So in order that project can get done, I want to make sure that that gets done swiftly, because it's somebody that donated to them that's looking to donate a lot more to our facilities, and we have to move on that as well. So, but as soon as we get this meeting next week and get some answers, we'll try to schedule a facility subcommittee sooner than later. Mrs. Sullivan, followed by Mrs. Oliver.
Okay, just to update the notes, the school committee didn't vote on the building, the track club's building yet.
No. That's, the attorney's going to look at the donation to make sure how we can get there.
But we didn't vote in full.
No, we didn't, no.
Okay,
There was no vote
Just
taken.
to be clear on that.
Yeah, no vote was taken on the
And-
track club.
The Rock Stadium with the Brockton High baseball was approved by the committee. I was on the committee then. It was approved that Brockton High School uses that baseball field for their games and practices. That was approved. So update the notes. It's got to be somewhere that that was approved by the school committee.
Yeah, that's on the original, so they were gonna review the new contract that they have with the Rocks, because there was some issues
Oh, I didn't know there
this
was a
year.
new, I didn't know there was a
Yeah,
new
they-
contract. I'm talking
the
about
new
the
ownership.
original, because I was on the committee then.
Okay, yeah, so we have the original, so the city did a whole new contract with the new ownership, and there was some issues that arised with our students utilizing the stadium this year.
Well, did the baseball field in the new agreement? Is that in the new agreement?
That's
That
what,
Brockton High gets to use the baseball?
they're using it, but there was been a lot of issues of delays and who's responsible for maintaining the field, which kind of put the onus more on the school department than with the Rocks.
Yeah, because whatever was in the original agreement for the baseball, Brockton High baseball, should have been brought forward to the new agreement. And we didn't see anything on that, so we did approve the original.
Yeah.
So,
So
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
so my,
didn't know there was a
yeah,
new
so that's,
agreement.
we're gonna let the attorneys figure the legal language on that, because, you know, when I read the original, and then there's two contracts that were signed, and nothing's come before this committee for any language change, I just want to make sure that those languages that were originally put in there is still intact and nothing was changed. So, but that's for the next facilities. Mrs. Azak, are you all set, Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
It was
Thanks.
Ms. Oliver,
Az-
then me.
Mrs. Oliver, I'm Ms.
Quick thing also, if attorney can check on who's doing the detail on his games. Is it the school police or the Brockton police? So we want to make sure who's paying for those. Do we have police officers when there's a game? So to see who's doing the detail. Is it our police officers or the city to see exactly where the fund is coming from? And usually when there's a baseball game, there's always trash in the parking lot. Who's cleaning that? Who's taking care of that? Is that our facility, guys, or is it that the city going to be cleaning that up in our parking lot? And if there's a contract and you're supposed to be charging people coming in, and we drive in today and there's an open lot, we're really not making any money, so how are they enforcing it? To make sure that's also in their contract, you have to enforce parking fee because you owe us money, and not letting everybody just, park as they feel. But I think that's some of the stuff that I definitely want to see, if we can get those informations.
Ms. Azak?
Thank you. Actually, Ms. Oliver touched base on a couple of things. So for some of the committee members that are not familiar, where the Rock Stadium is, that was part of Brockton High School's land.
Baseball fields.
And they gave it, so then they put the rocks, and I believe, Mrs. Sullivan, I think that goes back to 2003.
there.
Chair, was that contract 2003?
Say that?
2003, I believe, is when it happened, the contract?
It was two.
I
yeah,
think it was
around
2003.
It was.
Yeah, it was 2003 when originally they started building everything. So
Actually, it was 2000, I believe. It was
Okay,
in 2000,
so this
2000.
goes back, almost 25 years. Again, when we talked about a different matter with the field, we get into these agreements with outside entities, and, one of my constituents brought it to my attention. The field wasn't ready. Our teams weren't able to play. The home games had to get rescheduled. So it's again, we need to make it clear who's responsible for what, because this did end up costing the school department. We'll have to check with Mr. Thompson, but I'm throwing this out there, maybe 18, 20K, maybe more, to get the fields ready and everything, just so our kids can use the field. And then we all noticed the rock sign. So I, as a committee member, would ask that we as a committee notify them moving forward. If you're going to use our parking lot, then have our school police enforce it, that any money that's brought in from that we either have someone working it from us on our side, or they don't use the parking lot. Because again, you're putting wear and tear, they're leaving the parking lot a mess. Our custodians have to go out and our groundsmen have to go out and clean up the parking lot. Again, we charge to rent out our parking lots and they're using it for free. So they're, it's not really a breach of the contract that we have with them, Attorney Mello, but again, they're not holding up to their end of the contract, whereas we're finding ways to get funds to help our kids, and we're losing out on tens of thousands, and we have for over years. So I would definitely, as a committee, maybe put them on notice moving forward that if they are to use our parking lot, that we do maybe have one of our custodians or someone, appoint someone and maybe have our school police monitor it. And then same with, if, school police, I really think we should have someone on the weekends monitor our schools and our buildings. You know, we've had a couple of issues here and there, and I really think we really need to look at having someone on the weekends just to drive and just check up on the schools and stuff. It's not a bad practice to have someone on call, or at least check them, you know, throughout the day, but just wanted to give everyone an update. So that's why, when we're being extra cautious with other items, it's because now we're running into issues with one entity that we're working with and having an agreement with. But thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments by any of the members? Mr. Vega? Oh, you were just stretching?
No, it's just no, no. It's and I think we're all aware that, unfortunately, the district lost one of its leaders last week. We received word that Dan Begent, the director of technology, had unexpectedly passed away. I just wanted to take a moment to, I was just getting to know Dan. We had gone to lunch not too long ago and had planned on going again this summer. And in that short time, I learned a lot about him, his personal life, his time in the military, and his kind of vision for where technology could go in our district. I'm just thinking about his family and the members of his department. It's a loss to the district.
Duly noted. Seeing no other business, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. Show of hands. Meeting adjourned.